I'm Mike Norton. I'm a professor at Harvard Business School, and my research focuses on ways that we can spend our time and money to make ourselves happier instead of more miserable. When I started studying rituals, I really thought they were kind of something for people who are into crystals or something like that. And I mean, I knew we all do them all the time. We have birthdays and weddings and funerals. So I knew they were around us, but I wasn't really sold on them being a really important part of life and part of our well-being until I started studying them. And you just see them in marriages, you see them in families and parenting, you see them at work, you just see them everywhere in the world that people are using rituals for something. Sometimes they're trying to get really happy and joyful, sometimes they're trying to calm down, sometimes they're dealing with grief, sometimes they're trying to get excited. We really use them for all these different purposes. And if we're using something in so many domains of life, eventually I said there must be something to these, or we wouldn't be using them all the time. We started to look at the role of rituals at work, mainly because people kept saying, have you looked at rituals at work? Because I thought that they were really important. And one of the places that we started looking actually was team rituals at work. Not team rituals like trust falls and stuff like that you have to do on corporate retreats, but little things that teams did to kind of differentiate themselves and show that they cared about each other. And the first one that we found just randomly was a team that during COVID had to go online on Zoom. And they decided they would start every single meeting by each person clicking the emoji that reflected how they were feeling. So you saw their whole screen of all the faces, and you got kind of an average of everyone. And then you could also see, like, Dave might need a follow up because it seems like he's struggling in particular today. And so it was this amazing way where they just told each other, we're not just like work colleagues, but we care about how we're doing. And what was so fascinating was they never did anything like that when they were in person. It was the technology actually that allowed them to do the quick little emoji thing. And then we just started seeing everywhere that people were using these little, again, not huge rituals like people in robes with candles and stuff like that, but these little practices that teams did that they told us actually they make them feel closer to their coworkers. And we do even see that it's related to the meaning they find in their work. They're not just going to work, they're going to work and doing something meaningful. I'm a psychologist by training, and then I moved over to a business school. So a lot of the research I do is really how we can take little small actions in our everyday life to change our happiness. We can also take big actions in life, like getting married or getting a divorce or getting a new job. Those things, of course, affect our happiness. But I've always been interested in the ones that you can do today. So not what would you do if you won $1 billion in a lottery, but what would you do with $5 right now? We really try, or 5 minutes right now. We really try to think in the research, what are these small things that people can do every day to give themselves more connection with other people, to give themselves more joy in their interactions. One of the key things we see across rituals, across money, across time, is that when people use those resources on anybody but themselves, and I mean anybody but themselves. They could be donating to a charity in a country that they don't even know where it is on the map, or they could be buying lunch for a friend or a gift for their kid. I mean, very broadly defined. When people are using and thinking about other people instead of themselves, that's where we tend to see people get more happiness. When people buy stuff for themselves, and of course we all do it, we all buy stuff for ourselves, that just doesn't really do that much for us. So the overall recommendation is use your time to connect with other people. Rituals help us connect with other people when we do cheers at a bar. We're just using a tiny little ritual to connect with other people, but they make a big difference. There is this question that it looks when we look around us that people are volunteering less, they're donating less to charity. It seems like they're getting more self-focused and less focused on other people. And one of the things that really takes away from our lives, and we see this in our research, but lots of people have shown it, is having a feeling of impact, full stop. Because most of our days, we go through them, we do stuff, we eat, we type, we work, we stand, we sit, we do all of these things. And it's not really clear that we're having an impact on the world. and feeling like you have an impact on the world. This isn't just me saying it. The data shows having an impact on the world really makes us feel really good. If you do something and you can see that it had an actual effect on another person, that's something that you can't really get anywhere else. And it is hugely predictive of your happiness. And so when you think about, should I be volunteering? That's kind of a pain. Should I be donating? Well, I kind of want to buy myself something else. When you do those other things, you're giving up the feeling of impact. And that feeling is something that I think we should chase more. One of my favorite pieces of research over the last few years is not mine, unfortunately. It's some colleagues, Juliana Schroeder and Nick Epley, who did this really clever study where they asked people, how pleasant is it to interact with a stranger? And people say, very unpleasant. I don't want to do that at all. I don't want to get trapped. The person might be a weirdo. You know, we think of all these negative things, but they do the research where they actually force people to do it. They tell people before they get on a bus, you have to talk to somebody that you haven't known, that haven't met before, or on a train or elsewhere. And what they show is that we're wrong, actually, that when we have these conversations with people, that they do make us happier. We just avoid them because we think of the worst case scenario. But what typically happens is you have sort of a nice chat about something random, and you're smiling because you're trying to be nice, and they're smiling because they're trying to be nice. And compared to just staring at your phone, of course it's better to chat with somebody than to just be here. And so again, I think we lose opportunities to create community by being so focused on what we're doing right in front of us and missing the fact that there are people around us who we could chat with, not for 5 hours, and we're not going to, marry them or anything like that, but they're right there. And the research shows actually that not only would we be happier, of course, but they get the benefit as well. The biggest source of joy, I was just talking about this actually with some friends who are also parents earlier today. The biggest source of joy, kids can be difficult, of course, but they're the most amazing thing as well, because you get joy from the things that they do that you used to get joy from. They kind of bring it back for you. So we went apple, of all things, we went apple picking, which if you don't have a kid and I'm 49, I probably wouldn't go apple picking just on my own at this point. But when you have a kid, they remind you that there's joy all around you in the world. If they see ice, they are so happy and excited about the ice. Where did the ice come from? What do we do with the ice? We lose again these opportunities for these small moments of joy. So just being around kids, my daughter, of course, in particular, but kids in general, they get joy out of things and they remind you that you can too.